Jimmy Casas, we are back. The weekly show is back. And check me out, Jimmy. Check me out, Jimmy, because I'm not in a car. I'm not in a parking lot. There's no way that people are going to show. And if they do show up right now and start looking into my windows, I'm going to be a little bit upset because it's my house, Jimmy. So how about that? Look at this. I got my own space. I got a microphone, a couple lights coming in at me. Got a fantastic sweatshirt that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I'm home. I got all my equipment. We're ready to go. It's good. We're ready for the holiday break. Kids are home. My kids are home. And you're thinking here. So when kids come home from college or from their job or whatever, you know, and they come back and everybody's really excited to have them home. And I'm excited. I mean, I'm really excited. But here's why I'm excited. And this is going to make me sound like a horrible dad, but that's okay. This is going to happen. And, you know, the kids come back and it's fantastic to have them and others love in the house, blah, 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 blah. My kids came back and the heat in this house is hot. Like, I don't, when the kids aren't here, he's down to like 30 degrees. And my wife keeps it at like 10 degrees. Kids are here. We're sleeping. It's like, man, it's warm in here. It's really warm in here. I'm not like my nose isn't running and freezing under the covers. This is a good day for me. This is a very good day for me. I may have sweated a little bit. I'm going to count it as a workout. This is what I'm talking about, Jimmy. This is what I'm talking about. It's great that the kids are back and everything, but the house is warm, my man. The house is warm, and I'm feeling good about that. So I'm excited about the break. Finally got yesterday. I was in Ohio this week and got a chance to, you know, just speak to a group there. And then now we're done until the beginning of January. I know that you've been off for a couple days, get a chance to connect with family, but what an incredible year, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. My favorite part of that whole spiel was I'm going to count it as a workout.
You know how I feel about working out, Jimmy. You know, and we're getting to that point where everybody's talking about, well, you know, the resolutions in 2024. I'm thinking about doing some resolutions and maybe, you know, creating a great opportunity for my body through some healthy living. No way, man. No. See, it's just a letdown. New Year's resolutions for exercise, just a letdown on January 16th. Let's just be honest about what's happening here. Okay, let's just be honest. Right? I'm counting that as a workout right now. And if I keep talking at this level and I start sweating a little bit, workout. It counts, Jimmy. It counts.
That's why I let you go. I wonder how many calories you burn during a rant. That's what we should have, like a rantometer.
Guess what? It all counts, my man. It all counts.
It's hard though, right? I mean, it's amazing how much food there just is in front of you everywhere you go now. It's just hard. Everywhere. I mean, it takes a lot of willpower. It's like,
yeah. So,
but you want to eat everything and you can't.
I know.
It's not going to be a good 2 weeks for me. I just know that. So it's not.
Well, heck, the 2 days that we had together when I was with you a couple of weeks ago, forget it. Like if I would live like that, you roll me in and out of places, man. That's all we. I don't think there was anything in Chicago that we didn't eat, man. Let's be honest about that.
That's what Keela said. She goes, oh my God, how many times did you eat? So I just kept rattling off all these places we went to. Like, well, you know, had to sample, had a little food crawl going on. So
yeah,
you know,
we did. It was good. It was
Chicago. Never gets old.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you got it. You go.
I was just saying last night, same thing. Like I made Mexican last night. Just good. It's funny. I was thinking too, as I was cooking, I was like, you know, obviously over the years, I've just gotten better and better, just like anything else, right? You do it enough times, just get better. And I was so proud of myself last night because I thought everything just came out perfect, exactly the way I wanted to come out. And then at the end, I just realized no matter how perfect it comes out, never going to be good as Mama Casas was just last week when I was there. I was like, oh my God. So
yeah, you know, that's almost like a deflating and inflating all at the same time, right? It's like deflating, it'll never be as good, but inflating, like, man, she's something special. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
you
got
everybody,
like
right?
in the middle.
Everybody's like, there's something their mom cooks that it doesn't matter where you go. It's just like, no. It'll never be like my mom's, and it doesn't matter what that is, but everybody has that a little bit. So I think it's just a reminder. It's a reminder.
I think it goes to, it's not even always about cooking too. It's just about like experiences too. Think about how many times you've gone back to a place that you've gone to with your family or gone to with your team or whatever. And you go there and you're thinking, yeah, this was really awesome. So we're going to go back. And then you go back. It's like, it's awesome. It's cool, but it's not what it was. And I think that happens to us a lot, and which is great, but it makes me feel like, how are we making sure that we stay in the moment when those things do happen? There was a really cool meme. I don't remember even what it was. It was somebody talking about the good old days or something about the fact that I wish people would have told me that we're in the good old days right now or something like that, right? Like you're actually in them right now. And I think that ends up coming into your mind a little bit in terms of like, it used to be like this. Well, if you were present, engaged in the moment, that's why it was like that. And so I think if we can keep ourselves going more often like that, I think it's important, and just be thankful that we have those opportunities. And I could not be more thankful in 2023 than I am. And in particular to have, a friend like you that we get a chance to do this every week. But the fact that we get a chance to push each other and talk and connect, it's like, it's one of the best gifts that I could ever have. So I think I just want to say thanks to you as we start thinking about 2024. But I've been honored to do this, and it's been a great year. So we should talk about what this year's been and how we can help people moving forward. What do you think?
Geez, Joe, for a second there, I was thinking the show was over. I think you were just closing it out. I wrote myself a little note this one. It said, "Let Joe close out the show today."
Well, I'll tell you, the reason that I did that is because the average.
Get it in now. I'm getting it in now.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you, because I think what happens is when you listen to the average amount of time people listen to podcasts, it's like 8 minutes. And I was at the 7:45 mark. I want to say, let's make sure we get this in before people start tuning out.
My favorite part last night, whatever it was we were talking about, you go, it doesn't matter, Jimmy. We'll have like 3 people on the show tomorrow. Hey, it's 3 people. Hey, that's not true. We already broke. Look, there's Courtney. Courtney, good morning, Courtney. Courtney's here.
Courtney's here. What's she doing?
Josh Tovar. See,
oh my gosh.
It's going to be a good day.
Fantastic. Look at this. All right. We got Courtney Tovar's in. Neil Gupta's in, man. I'm telling you, at least like, we got heavy hitters in today, man. Now I'm nervous. Here's the other thing about this is right now is like, now I'm home. I was, the last couple of times that we've had the show, I was like in a car, right? In a parking lot somewhere, but I could also be as loud as I wanted because I was the only one there. My family's upstairs. No chance they're still sleeping. And do I care at this point? Get up. It's Christmas break, people. Let's go. Let's go.
Courtney, don't worry. The best part about this, it is recorded. I'm going to take that recording. I'm going to make a little clip of Joe being nice, and I'm going to put it out to the world for some holiday cheer. I mean, Joe typically is an angry elf during this time of the year.
Oh,
he was a happy elf there.
Look, and then she's going to put that up. There it is. All right. Okay. Keel on the backside of this putting all that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. I see. Right. I get that. I get that. I get a little bit animated, Jimmy. Listen, Jimmy, we got work to do, but I'll tell. Lynn Stark is here too. My goodness, look at all these people. What a week. We are closing out. Let's be honest. Yes, that's the answer right now. Neither of us have jobs. All right. So
what I'm excited about, really? Frank Poland is coming into the studio today to join us.
I love it. I love it.
Yep. Super excited about that. And
Frank's been in on this thing early. Frank's been in on this thing early. He was one of the first people to start watching the show and contributing to the show. And I think what a great opportunity for us to bring in somebody that has seen this thing happen from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been here all along. We're going to be talking about service, right? Service, what it means to serve.
Right.
So looking forward to that.
I think when we come in, I got a chance to talk to Frank a number of times, and I think everything that he talks about comes back to servant leadership and what that really looks like. And it's just, he is a joy to talk to, just on, just off the mic, off camera and stuff like that. I got a chance to see him this week, but one of the things about service that I think that I'll always come back to, and I say it actually literally with every time I go speak, and that is I had a professor in college, and her name is Nancy Blair, and she's a wonderful, wonderful human being. And
we've
the
talked
one
about this. Remember, same thing. That's where we.
that's right. You know her.
I had Nancy Blair also. Yes,
that's right. And so her quote that
advisor.
I love everything about her, but the quote that she gave us in class, which is the greatest gift of service that you can give to another human being, is for the time that you're with them, they are the center of your universe. And that I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if it was worth $70,000 of a doctoral program, but it was close. It was close, man, because that quote is legit. And if you just think about it that way, if the greatest gift of service that we can give to another person is for them to believe they are the center of our universe in that moment, not two things happen. The first thing that happens is they feel better about the conversation that they're in with you. But just as importantly, they walk out and they'll talk about that conversation differently to somebody else. You know what I mean? Like they know that you were, and that those things, there's just this domino effect of what we do when it comes down to this work. And I think that's really, truly important. So, man, that's service is what we should all aspire to do in terms of how we lead. But at the same time, can we inspire others to feel the same way?
Yeah, I was thinking about a quote as well. This whole idea about, we become educators, obviously to serve others and to help others, but we also do it to change the environment and the condition so others have the best chance to be successful, right? So it's a little bit of that combination of both. And I was thinking, I saw the same thing, right? I saw this tweet the other day, and it was talking about the importance of connecting the dots, right? And I agree with that, and how we, a lot of people in our profession, it's really amazing. I mean, just look at the show today, like how people bring other people in and they connect those dots with other people. But it's a reminder that we have to collect the dots first, right? It's hard you can't connect them if we're not collecting dots along the way. And I think, the longer we're in this profession, we continue to come across people and individuals. And it's just a reminder how many good people are in our profession.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I love probably about it more than anything else is just the knowledge and the wisdom and so many people committed. And I know that people get down about our profession, but I don't know, there's something to me this year. I felt like, I don't know if it's just coming off the tail end of, what we went through the last 3 years, but maybe it's an inspiration for more people wanting to get out there to say, this is one way I can help and give back to others is I can continue to share what I've learned over the years. Yeah. And there's just something about the momentum and the wave in our profession to really try to uplift other people. And it's really neat to see. And I like that. I'll be honest, I don't see as much there for a while. I don't know, maybe people were cranky during COVID, but I don't see as much bashing going on. Yeah, there's still a little bit of woe is me sometimes. That's normal for that to happen. But there for a while, it seemed like it was getting pretty negative about educators. Educators going at each other, right? Or people, challenging and it's one thing to challenge and have dissension but it's another thing to get so personal about it too, right? People sometimes can just get really nasty. And I've always said, if you don't like it, then don't read it or don't listen to it. I mean, some people just want to go right. They don't want to have a conversation. And there's something this year, I don't know. I feel like I've seen a change in that. And I think that's been really good for our profession. And I feel like we're on that wave coming back. I really believe it's going to come swing all the way back. And I think educators in 2024 are going to start getting the love they really deserve. Hopefully that happens.
I hope so.
We deserve that. So
I hope so.
Especially those that are still doing the work every day. I mean, I know I'm going to keep trying to carry the banner for it, but people that are still in the trenches every day, it's, they need that. And they deserve that. And
they do.
I think people go in the profession because they want to do good for other people. And it would be nice if our society just recognized that and gave people that value and quit so much time attacking and wasting so much energy and really sending us sideways. I mean, people get sent sideways into things we shouldn't have to be dealing with. And so I'm excited about the new year. And that's one thing that I think we can all play a part, at least the ones that we're connected with. And I think we try to do that. So
one of the things I think is important about what you said, though, Jimmy, is that you said it. You said, I hope that society starts to view us for the work that we do in terms of and give us the recognition that we deserve. The one thing that I think we both understand is that we can't rely on that hope, right? We have to figure out ways that we can kind of take care of each other in these moments. And a lot of times when we talk to groups, it's like a lot what we'll hear is, well, I wish my principal would say this, or I wish my superintendent would say this, or I wish my central office would say this. And what we kind of keep coming back to is that it's great when those people get a chance to do that, and from a leadership lens. But if we're not building a culture where you're willing to say that about the person that teaches next door to you, then what are we really doing? Because if we keep waiting for people to tell us that we're good at our job, we're gonna be waiting for a while, and then we start to wonder in those gaps. But if we can fill in those gaps for each other, now we put ourselves in a different position, because now we're consistently figuring out ways to recognize, acknowledge, extend great work in terms of what we do. But at the same time, your willingness to go next door and talk to a colleague about how good they are at what they do is the thing that kind of brings momentum. And then when somebody from outside tells you that you're great at your work, or the principal comes in and says, I really liked what you did, it's added, but it's not dependent on those things. The dependent piece is, how do you take care of each other in the moment? And that's the thing that develops momentum for the work that you do.
Absolutely. Hey, guess what?
What?
Joe, I'm going to give you the honor, since you had a chance to break some bread with this gentleman. Yeah. And so we're going to go ahead and bring Frank Poland into the studio this morning with us. Joe, we have a real show now. We have a real show.
No, we got the real show. I had an incredible week. I got a chance to go. I was in Ohio for a couple of days. Lynn Stark is here. I got a chance to see her school, and it was an incredible place. And then the next day, actually that evening, I got a chance to go and have dinner with Frank Poland, and then Frank came and saw me speak in West Holmes the next day. And the really cool thing was the opportunity to just sit down and have a conversation. And it was weird, because we start talking about the stuff that we're involved in and the connections. And then I told him I was going to watch a basketball game at Michigan State, where my brother-in-law coaches at Stony Brook. And then he talked about the fact that he knew the head coach at Stony Brook. And it was like this, everything just kind of came together in all these stories. And I talked to Gino that night, and he has great stories. Some of them I can't share online, but at the same time, we had a great conversation. But Frank Poland, if you check me out, Frank. Check me out, Frank. I got my Buckeye Career Center. Fantastic. Established 1976. I was born just before that, Frank. This thing's been around as long as I've been around.
I was already 32 in 1976.
Yeah, exactly. You look it, man. You look it. But
I know
Frank
I'm old.
Poland,
And I asked somebody last night, hey, you remember Fantasy Island? And they looked at me and like, Fantasy Island, what the hell's that? And I'm like, never mind, forget it.
Yep, next, right? Yeah. So Frank Poland, thank you so much for joining us today. Leader at Buckeye Career Center, and an incredible human being. So Frank, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Jimmy, Joe, thank you so much for allowing me to join in today. Here's the beautiful thing. And Joe was talking about the connections that you guys have made, not only to you, but to people all across the states in the educational and just flat out leadership journey. Whether there's 4 people, 5 people, there are probably 4 or 5 that just jumped off when they heard my name come on. So cannot thank you guys enough for sharing just tremendous messages and sticking to this, because it does make a huge, huge impact.
You're very welcome, man. But I'll tell you, I think a lot of it has to do with just the continued conversation of what we do. So when we were talking about things that we wanted to talk about, one of the things that you're really, really invested in terms of how you lead your group and what you put out in terms of being online or connecting to people is the whole concept of what are we doing to serve each other and serve the people in our community and serve, other leaders and everything like that. So the connections that you're just talking about is really what we're talking about when it comes down to service. But when you think about service and how you're serving and leading in through servant leadership, what are the things that come to your mind right away?
Right off the bat, I think, and you were talking a little bit earlier, but the greatest ability and all that is availability, being there and putting others before yourself. I'm a big, what I call people before paper type person. So I'm going to try to be available for my product, which is in essence our people, our students. And if I've got to come in for 4 hours on a Saturday or do stuff at night, the paperwork side, I'm going to do that, because the most valuable commodity we have is the people time. And so people before paper, and the biggest ability is availability is really, I think, the most important lessons that I'm hoping I'm instilling on others as well.
I really like that, Frank, that availability, because it kind of reminds me, it kind of goes along there's something about the availability, but it's also, I always felt like goes hand in hand with it, is the dependability, right? Because I still remember one time telling a kid, hey, I'll stop by and talk to you at lunch. Don't worry, I'll see you at lunch, right? And of course, the day gets busy and you never make it to lunch. And then later on that afternoon, he saw me later and he was mad at me. Like, he would greet me every day, and all of a sudden he's just mad at me. I'm like, what's going on with him? And so I went over, I said, hey, what's going on? He said, you said you were going to come see me on lunch. I said, oh, I'm so sorry, I got tied up. He goes, well, you always get tied up. And I was like, wow, like, it's true though, right? It's a reminder again why it's so important, that availability, but it's also the dependability to follow through on what we say we're going to do. Because if not, eventually it kind of becomes, you say you're going to do that, but your actions don't mirror that. And so it's just a good reminder. And that's another, for a leadership lesson for all of us, is who's helping you. I mean, for all of us who, especially in leadership, how we're using our admin assistants to make sure, what type of organizational things do you personally use to keep yourself organized, on time, to be where you're supposed to be, to follow up. This happens to us all the time, right? You're walking down the hallway, you'll get stopped, 16 times before you go from one end of the building to the other. And if you're just saying, oh yeah, I'll get back to you, and then we don't get back to people, it's a reminder again. But definitely the availability, Frank. So, and I appreciate that, my friend.
Here's the other thing, Jimmy, is that we're getting to that point in the year that, when it comes down to, like, I think about new people coming into a new position this year. A lot of people came into a new principal position, new leadership position, new superintendent position, and every single one of them, I shouldn't say it like that. My guess is every single one of them went into the year saying something like, well, I'm going to get to know everybody. I'm going to make sure that I sit down with everybody. I'm going to talk to them, see what they need, the whole thing, all that stuff. And then, so many people do that. But how many people do the follow-up after that first conversation? And this is about the time of year where you got to really check yourself and say, if you started the beginning of the year meeting with everybody, yet you haven't connected with the same groups that you met with, and now we're in December, we got to really think about what we're doing here, right? And sometimes that's as easy as creating a checklist that allows you to see, I've been to this place, this place, this place, and this place. It's also could be, you're talking about your assistant, Jimmy. I think when we can utilize the people that we serve with, we give ourselves a better chance to help the people that we are serving. Right? Like, so if our administrative assistant, if our assistant principal, our assistant superintendent, whatever the case may be, whatever our team is, if we're looking out for each other, where we can be available to people that we serve, but also, like you mentioned, dependable and follow up for that work. Not only do I look better as the leader, but we look better as a team. And I don't know what you do in terms of that work, Frank, but how does that impact what you do with your team?
Yeah, it's interesting as you're saying that, and I have created myself a little list, because it's real easy to become comfortable. Just outside of my office area is the cafeteria. We have teachers on duty there. Students are coming by. I'm seeing, maybe 50, 100, whatever it may be, but I'm seeing the same ones all the time. I'm seeing the same 2 or 3 teachers. If I'm not really intentional about taking that walk early in the morning to get to different parts, as we have wings in our building, then all of a sudden I get down there and they're like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. And that's a great reminder that, hey, just don't do what's the easy or the most comfortable. Get out and see people in their environment and their areas, and doing that with a more intentional list has helped in that manner. And I think we, just myself, our building principals, our assistant principals, we kind of get into routines. And then all of a sudden we only see the same people at the same time, and mixing that up or doing a reverse order of where you might go. So they don't say, well, it's 9:10. Here comes Frank. We know he's going to come in and say, hey, how you doing? And then be right out the door. But making sure that you see them and really spending time in their personal space, if you will, not just being the dominant leader of the conversation. Beyond how you're doing, what can I do for you? And then I look at the model, how can we say yes? Be available. And sometimes you're going to hear some of the stuff you may not want to hear, but that's okay too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Frank, when Joe was talking earlier, it reminded me again, just simple things, right? We always say culture is not one thing, it's everything. And everything comes into play, right? And one of those things is just what Joe was talking about is just how important it is that dependability is also that part of that circle back, closing the circle, following, going back, right? That investment of time to recheck again, to make sure, hey, I just wanted to check back in to see how things are going. I think all those things matter to people. Because again, it's like, oh my goodness, they took time, they cared enough to circle back. So just remember to close that circle, not just with kids, but with our colleagues as well, and how important it is. And so, Frank, you talked yesterday, you said to me, hey, this idea of being the ultimate giver. I want you to, I'm just going to give you a second kind of think about that. What does it mean to be the ultimate giver in our profession? What does that look like in the work that we do every day? And as you're kind of processing that for a second here, Frank, I just want to thank, again, Josh, thank you. Yes, Josh making the comment to Fantasy Island there. Well done, Josh. Well done. But Andy Little's in the house. And Joe, look at Shane Greenland. He's trying to show us again, I can get up at 4 a.m. and do this with you guys. I have no problem. I'm there for you. And thank you, everyone, for joining the show this morning with us.
Appreciate it.
Well,
Frank, the ultimate giver.
Well, I'll tell you, and I've really, I've been blessed to be around people that have instilled incredible, I hope, things into my life. And I told Joe this the other day. I'm first interview for a principal job, and I'm sitting there, and the question comes out, and it's like, what do you think about servant leadership? And it was like, I think I'm in the right line of questioning here, but it was like it kind of stumped me for a second, thinking, well, I'm thinking servant leadership, helping others, being available, all these different. But I thought, well, I better ask just a clarifying question. And when he did, he said, this superintendent, great superintendent, said, well, I believe the greatest example of that, it was Jesus. And he goes into that. I'm like, okay, I'm in the right thing. So when I think about the ultimate giver, I've really tried to concentrate on a couple things. One, being helpful versus being the help desk.
Yeah,
I've kind of learned on it. But as ultimate giver, in your heart, you want it more for people than sometimes they want for themselves. You want to help them and give of your time, your talent, your treasure. If it means a call at 2 a.m, if it means you got to drive, that country music song where you're picking someone up because he ran into the ditch. The ultimate giver is someone who selflessly sacrifices their own to help others. In the end, we all feel better. We all just become a better human being when we help other people.
Yeah. And we feel better about it, to be really honest. I think, right. We do every time we talked about the idea of, if you can create an environment where people are taking care of each other and actually saying good things about each other, two things happen. The people who are being talked about feel better, but also the person that's talking about them feels better because it's just a shot of adrenaline or whatever you want to call it. It just makes you feel better. That's just what it is. And I think we've got to be really cognizant. One of the things, the other thing that I think we do, and Jimmy, we started the show talking about this, when we continuously get beat down.
That's right.
When we continuously get beat down in terms of people not seeing the work that we do, I think it has an impact on how we react to people telling us that we're good at our job. And so when you go to somebody and you tell them, hey, I really loved what I saw here, blah, 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 whatever it was, I thought, it made me feel good to see you with these kids and to see what you were doing. And their immediate response is to deflect that praise. It makes it harder for the person who's praising them to come back the next day and praise them, because who wants to be shut down? If you go tell somebody that they're good, they're like, yeah, no, I'm really not. Well, why would I want to do that the next day and go find them again and say, yeah, you're really good again? And you know what I mean? So if we got to teach each other to be okay with the compliments sometimes. At some point, Jimmy, I'm going to give you a compliment. And when I do, I hope you say thank you, right? I don't know when it's going to be. And I'll probably—
You already did to start the show, Joe, and I almost fell over my chair. But it is funny, right?
Right.
It's funny, right? It's funny, even though I know this and we talk about this, right? Even as you were sharing that with me, it's not an uncomfortableness.
Yes.
But I think for a lot of people who are in our role, it's just, I don't know. I think we are good deflectors, right? We deflect it
Right.
to somebody else, and maybe that is part of servant leadership. I don't know. Maybe there's probably a little bit of that in all of us, right? And
I
trying
think
to
there's a
say-
blend.
Yeah,
There's a
it
blend.
is
You
a
can
little bit blend.
you can deflect it. You can give credit to others, but
Yep.
we all know you did something.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
why pretend that you didn't? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, come on. I mean, or
Yeah.
my favorite is when people say, "Well, I just got really lucky." No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You created that. Like, let's be honest. So just say thank you, and then move on. But it's really hard to compliment people when they don't take the compliment.
Yeah.
And
Well, especially
if
in our
we're gonna-
profession, because we can be a little bit of a whiny bunch sometimes. We can.
there
So
are
we
times,
can't- we
man.
can't play
There
it
are
both ways,
times,
so.
right?
Joe,
I
you
agree.
said something in there that I was thinking about when you said it. And again, I just kind of, it's funny how you just constantly reflect. Like, I want to go back and do it all over again. Like, it's so funny. That's why I think it's good to change positions. I don't know what the magic number is. Is it 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever? But I feel like every time you change positions, you take the wisdom, you take the knowledge, you take all the learnings into your new position. It's almost like you get a restart, right?
Yeah.
And some days I wish I could restart it. I mean, obviously I'm too old now, but if there's days I still am tempted to go back into it because I just feel like there's so many things I want to do differently. But one of the things you said, Joe, was, you talked about people feeling beat down.
Yeah.
And I go back to, again, there's so many things I wish I could do different. But I think one of the reasons, as I reflect on why my staff at times felt beat down, and we got to be careful about this because I think, again, and we kind of said this at the beginning of the show, is, yeah, sometimes that comes from external factors, right?
Mhm.
The way people treat us, to say the things that say about us, we don't feel appreciated. So those things can beat us down, especially personal attacks beat us down. But I do wonder sometimes, is there a difference between feeling beat down and feeling wore down?
Mm.
And if people are feeling wore down, then I think we have to reflect and say, well, why are they wore down? And is it because are we giving them too much?
Yeah.
And so maybe they wouldn't feel beat down or wore down if we were a little bit more intentional, more strategic, and more transparent in how we were trying to take things off people's plates. Because I do think, again, the amount of initiatives that have come here in the recent years, again, I think at some point we have to recognize that as a profession and say, people can only do so much. And I'm not just talking about our teachers too. We know that.
Everybody.
But even our leaders who are getting constant things that we keep having to do differently, whether that's coming from sometimes school boards, sometimes it's coming from the state, sometimes it's coming from the federal government. But at the same time, I do reflect on the difference between people feeling beat down and wore down. And it's a reminder again that, we don't get to choose the kids that come into our classroom. We don't get to choose the people that move into our community. We don't get to choose, well, we do, but the number of people who decide to go into the profession, we don't get to choose that. But I believe we can impact that. But we do get to choose the culture and climate in which we're going to serve those people. And so it's a reminder, again, if we're going to keep talking about taking care of our people, then let's start really taking care of them. And I think it begins by reassessing all the things we're asking people to do. And at what time do we say people can only do so much? And I do think that's an important reminder that, we don't wear our people down.
What does that look like in your spot, Frank?
Well, I think right there, that's why these connections are so important to have this conversation. Because as they're all different types of ways to lead, and the beat down versus worn down really hits a spot. Certainly, educators' plates are only so big, and the more that we put on, we've got to ask ourselves. We don't want to be the person at the buffet that leaves and feels miserable after having a great meal, right? What are we going to take off? What sample sizes are we going to reduce, reuse, or recycle, or whatever it may be? But there are a lot of moving parts today. So we do need to allow time to that step back, reflect, maybe remove. But Joe, as you asked what it looks like here, man, it is ultimate busyness. And sometimes in an ultimate business, are we as productive as we need to be? Are we willing to put some stuff on the back burner, or even remove things or support in a different way? That would be the thing. But these conversations, I got a whole page. I mean, I'm scribbling stuff down here because it's ultimately the connections and things along this to know that people are in, and we're all in this together, as you guys always say, right? And now also everyone's always fighting a battle that we may know nothing of. So how do we get everybody to come around and realize that there's all different types of ways to lead, but ultimately leading and knowing that we're going to do our very best and be able to lay our head down on our pillow. I think Nick Saban, he just said, you have to show that you care for other people, then have to be willing to serve other people.
Yeah.
So you first got to care.
Absolutely. And Jimmy, you had mentioned, when it comes down to, sometimes with the initiatives, it's the district, or if it's the state, or if it's the, federal government or whatever, but sometimes it's us. I mean, let's just be really honest about it. Sometimes it's us. And a lot of times, we talked about it last time, I think sometimes we get into these breaks as leaders and we start thinking about all the new stuff that we're going to do, because it's the first time since August that you've had a week where you haven't had to be in a classroom, in a hallway. You got people running at you 1,000 miles an hour. And when you sit there at your desk in your office and you start thinking about how you're going to organize stuff, you start to come up with all these new ideas, which is great, but you got to be really careful about that in terms of what's going on when you come back, right? And I think if we control what we can control and understand that, I think a lot of times when we get into these gaps, one of the things I talk about superintendents with is the superintendency is interesting because as the principal, you're go, 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 and something's always happening and you're coming at 1,000 miles an hour. When you get to the superintendent role, you might not be go, 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 but at the same time, some of the decisions that you have to make end up being a lot more public because you're at that piece in the organization. So when you have those gaps, when people go from principal to superintendent, what happens is they're not running as fast as they were. So they have these gaps. So they start to fill in these gaps. And when they fill in the gaps and then things start running really hot at a higher level with more eyes on you, now you've got too much going on and you put yourself in a position where you don't look as effective because now you're trying to do too much because you filled in all of those gaps. Maybe just sit. Maybe just sit and think about what can you do for other people to help them feel better about the work that they're doing, as opposed to thinking about how you're going to change a system to be better all the time. If we're always thinking about how we're changing the system, nobody feels comfortable enough to actually be in the system and feel good about the system. It happens to us all the time. And I think, Jimmy, one of the things that you keep coming back to is frameworks. And the one thing that I love that you say about frameworks is, what do frameworks do? What do frameworks do? And the first thing you say is they slow you down.
Slow us down. Yep.
Yes. And that means that's it. I mean, right? Tell me more about that.
Well, the idea is just, again, it's, we're fixers by nature. A lot of us that go into this role, and we're just moving so quickly. But what we don't see is when we move so quickly, we get sloppy. Yep. And every time we get sloppy, we are the ones that are often creating those divisions or those gaps, as you referred to, Joe. And that's why we say, we're talking about leadership and culture, and yeah, we try to fill those gaps, but we're also creating those gaps. And so it's really important to recognize that that's why culture is so important. And when we're talking, really, we're just talking about behavior in the organization and how often that we create those undercurrents that eventually lead to those gaps. And then we turn around, we try to fill those gaps. So it's a vicious cycle. Like we can't get ourselves out of it over and over and over. So You're absolutely right, Joe. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday who works for the Department of Ed, because I was asking him some questions about, what is he seeing out there right now? I wanted to compare it to what I was seeing. And it's funny, right? And we just always say this, it's the same issues everywhere across the country. And I think one of the biggest issues that we're going to have to face going into the 2024 year is teacher retention and teacher recruitment. But we have to recognize that if we're not careful, it's our younger teachers. It's really not even our veteran teachers. I mean, people think our veteran teachers are getting tired and they're saying, well, it's time for me to leave. The research actually, according to him, says that it's actually the younger teachers that are leaving. Yeah. They're coming into the field and they're leaving right away. And I think we have to be very intentional understanding why is that happening. And a lot of that is around classroom management and how to work within an environment of working with kids on a daily basis, right? We go back to that getting wore down. So they have all these things coming at them. They walk into a profession and there's the support's not there. They don't have the support they need to manage all the things that are going in their classroom, the classroom management. They don't have the skill sets yet to navigate all the things that they need to be able to do as a new teacher coming in, because they're so limited in their tools and skill sets, obviously. And we are not doing a good enough job of preparing our districts to really have true support systems in place. So I think at some point we have to restructure that, because I do believe that our best recruitment tool is actually our new teachers coming to the field. They're the ones that have to go back out into the community when people ask them, hey, how are things going in your new job? We need them to say, oh, it's going great. The support I'm receiving, my team is awesome. My administration is awesome. If they aren't sharing that, if they aren't carrying the banner for our profession, then I think that gap's going to keep widening. And so there's an area that I think we have to begin to understand. And the last thing I'll say about that, because he mentioned something else that's just a reminder to me again, and it's just a pet peeve of mine, and I get it. But at some point, if we're going to continue to use walkthrough tools and kill our administrators to walk into classrooms and check off 36, 42, 48, 56 things, then we're all checking the box and we're all creating that gap, Joe. So you're absolutely right. I think sometimes we do that. And this is what we're talking about. How do we simplify things and just get back to the fundamentals of, do we really need to be going to a classroom and looking at 48 things or 42 and checking them off the list? Obviously, all those things are important. But at the end of the day, what is the most important thing we're looking for when we go into a classroom? And I believe it still has been, always will be, relationships, engagement, and assessment. And yet, why can't we just focus on 3 things instead of 30 things? So anyway,
I think
that's
what's
on my mind. So.
Right. And I think we can, if we're willing to talk about how that, looks at every level. And every group that we've talked to this year, Jimmy, we keep coming back to, less is more when it comes down to this work. So how are you creating connections when it comes down to it, so you don't feel like you're overwhelmed? Because if you feel like you're overwhelmed, you're going to overwhelm the people that you serve. And that's just what it is. So, Frank, we're going to get out of here, but we're going to give you one last shot in terms of anything that you want to say to the crew. From servant leadership to the ultimate giver, things that happened this year that you're really proud of. But the floor is yours for a second, just to kind of take us home, if you will, from Ohio.
Well, I'll tell you, when guys were just talking a minute ago, and I really thought in sports events and different things like that, we always talk about the speed of the leader, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about the speed of the leader. It's the tempo. It's the tempo. That is something you can control with that. And when you're talking about the younger teachers and leaving or simply not joining in, one of the most disheartening things is when an experienced teacher will tell someone that, what are you going to school for? Well, I'm going to be a teacher. Well, why would you want to do that? Listen, this is still the most incredible, best profession there is in the world. You have an opportunity to impact people that will last absolutely forever, will make a difference in their lives and their communities and families. It is the reward is tenfold of anything else that you can ever imagine. And I think what we need to do, the other thing is, we got to get away. It's not about the stuff. It is about the relationships. Relationships determine results. I remember the young lady that said, I'm not real sure people learn a lot from people they don't like. And you don't have to be their best friends, but you've got to find each and every little bit of thing that the student needs, or a way to connect, because it is about that. The connections will win it every time. The relationships determine the results. And that is why everyone has been impacted by each of you. Jimmy, you're the only one I haven't had the opportunity to hear live. I really want to be able to do that. So I'm looking forward to that. My goodness.
It's the best nap you'll ever get.
Well,
and we're back, Jimmy.
And we're back.
Joe's back to his normal self. Courtney, put that out.
She's gone. There's no chance she's still here. I told you 8 minutes. She's gone.
Actually, Joe's a liar. Let me tell you why. He said a nap. Joe or Frank, it will not be a nap. You'll be hibernating, my friend. You will be in hibernation when I'm done.
I know better than that. I've been able to catch many clips, and even Joe, you're the best in the business. So I'm really looking forward to that. And man, guys, keep doing this. It's incredible because the connections, the opportunity to know that other people are fighting the same battles and that we're all in this together and we can learn from one another to make this place so special. That's where we're at.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for your Frank. Thanks for your
Frank.
service, and thank you for coming in.
Jumping on. We appreciate it. And you're absolutely right. We can change lives, but we have to change our perspective, and then we have to change that message first, right? So, Frank, watch this.
Frank.
I'm going to turn it over to Joe, and I'm going to let Joe close this out, and I'm not saying another word. Thank you so much, Frank, and we'll check you out later, okay? We'll see you in 2024, my friend.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate you.
Take care, buddy. Joe Sampolippo, before you speak, buddy, I'm just going to say three things, and then 3 words. Not even 3 things, 3 words. I love you.
Yeah, I love you too,
It's
man.
all yours, buddy.
Thank you so much. And I think I've just had it's just been such a great year of doing this and connecting with people. And I have learned so much from you over the course of the year. And a lot of times it happens outside of the 46 minutes that we put this thing together. So we're going to keep doing it and do the best that we can to try to help as many people as we can, because when it comes down to it, when we're putting it in a situation, and we talk about this often, you get thrown into a leadership position and then people expect you just to know what to do. And I think the leadership position is one of the most important pieces of the organization, yet I think it's also the piece that gets the least amount of coaching when it comes down to getting better in those spaces. So we're going to keep doing what we can. We're going to do as much as we can to help as many people as we can. But when it comes down to this work, you have a week right now to just either unplug. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I won't tell you how to get away from the work. Maybe getting away from the work is not what you want to do. Maybe you get energized by leaning into the work or reading or podcasts or whatever it is. Whatever you need to do to energize yourself for when people come back after the first of the year, do it, because a lot of times we don't take care of ourselves in these moments. This whole show, we're in charge, from a leadership lens, we're in charge of taking care of the adults who are taking care of the kids. Who's taking care of the adults who are taking care of the adults who are taking care of the kids? And the answer is not too many people. So if this year, if 2023, if we've helped in any way, we are so thankful for that opportunity. We'll be back in 2024 to do it again, have more fun, make fun of each other, but most importantly, give everyone the opportunity to lead at the level that they want to lead at. Thank you so much for all you do, for all the people you serve, for all the opportunities that you've given those you serve. And we can't wait to see you in 2024. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.
God bless.